It's too early to be dragging like that. Good afternoon, ladies.
Yay.
All right. Hi. Thank you all for attending the Power and Profit and Partnership for Black Women. My name is Summer Alexander. I'm the owner of Simply Marketing Solutions, where I do branding and marketing communications for organizations throughout the country. I'm going to start by letting these other beautiful ladies introduce themselves, and then I'll tell you all briefly why we're doing this session about profit and partnership for Black women.
Yeah. Good afternoon, ladies. My name is Patrice Perkins. I am the founder of Creative Genius Law, a business, new media, and intellectual property law firm. We're based in Chicago with also offices in the LA area, in the DMV area. My main mission with Creative Genius Law is to work with creators to help them to use their creative capital to build generational wealth, and you'll hear a little bit about the backstory of that today.
Awesome. Hey, y'all. I'm Laura Knights with Lori Knights Coaching and Knights Consulting Group. I'm a small business coach primarily working with African American women entrepreneurs, and I also have a leadership development consultancy helping corporations increase their emotional intelligence and team dynamics in the workplace. So happy to be here with you guys.
Okay, and you all back there, if you want to, come on down. We can't see your beautiful faces back there. Yes, we like church calling you out, right? Okay, so the Power and Profit and Partnership for Black Women. American Express Open puts out what they call the State of Women-Owned Businesses report every year. And I've been following this report for the past several years, and the first time I read it, something stood out to me that was extremely alarming, and that was the revenue disparity between Black women, African American women, entrepreneurs, and every other ethnicity of entrepreneurs. On average, in 2018, Black women entrepreneurs earned around $24,000 a year. And I'm going to share with you specifically kind of how big the gap is when it comes to other women entrepreneurs, but we are at the very bottom, and you all know that $24,000 a year is not enough to contribute to your household, to save for long term, to do the things that you might want to do in your business and your family. And so why the reasons are varied for why this is. We know there's a lack of access to capital and things like that. But what we found in each running our own individual practices, but then also in partnering with each other, is that partnership is actually a really viable option for being able to build bigger revenue for your company and therefore for your personal self as well. So we're going to talk a little bit about our personal stories today, and then we're also going to share some tips and strategies, and we really just want you all to leave this session thinking about how you can potentially incorporate some kind of partnership with another black woman into your own business. Just to get a quick gauge of the room, how many entrepreneurs are in the room?
Everybody.
That's almost everybody. All right. Is there anyone thinking about going into entrepreneurship? Okay.
Whole room is covered.
The whole room is covered. And how many of you all have done some kind of partnership or collaboration with another business owner?
Cool.
Okay, excellent. So we'll do that, and then at the end we'll open it up for a little bit of Q&A. If you are going to be posted on social media, our hashtag for the session is #Profit and Partnership, and then you can also use the South by Southwest 2019 hashtag as well. I'm going to hand it over to Laura.
Okay, so I'm going to be participant and moderator today. Let's get started, ladies, with just sharing a little bit about our personal experiences and the backstory of how we kind of came to this conclusion about partnership. Patrice, you want to get started?
Yeah. So my firm is 9 years old, and I am in an industry where it can be incredibly taxing because as an attorney, we are spending so much time with our clients and we absorb everything that our clients bring to the table. I work with clients on all the kind of day-to-day business needs that they have. So if they're filling up, I'm up. If they're feeling down, that trickles down to me. And so one of the big things that I knew out of the gate was I never intended for Creative Genius Law to be just me. I never wanted it to be just me. I actually knew a good number of women entrepreneurs, and one of the common threads were people were tired and people were overworked and people felt like they were at it alone. And on some occasions, people were making the money, but on other occasions, they were not. And so I knew that for me to build the law firm that I wanted to build, I never wanted it to be just me. And so the first thing was having that vision out of the gate. If you guys notice, I actually want to see if somebody picked this up. What is one thing that you all notice about the name Creative Genius Law that may be different from other law firms? Could shout it out. There's no name in it. So that was very intentional. Because I knew from the beginning that I wanted to build this to be a collaboration between me and others, I didn't name it out of me after myself, because I never wanted ego to be a part of that journey. And so from the beginning, my message was, we're making this about the clients, and it's not about any of us individual attorneys. So we never have to have a fight about whose name goes on the door. And so that's my backstory. From day one, it was never about me. It was about how can I collaborate eventually with other women to provide this law firm that really kind of presented a new model in the legal industry.
When I started out doing business coaching, and so I've been in business for 7 years now. So doing events, doing retreats, doing virtual programs, what led me to start to think about collaboration was that I was tired. You all know that if you're a solopreneur, you're not only the CEO, you're the janitor, you're the administrative assistant, you're everything. And I was finding that my lane of creativity and really being able to operate in my zone of genius was getting bogged down by all of the administrative things I had to do, my taxes, my bookkeeping, all of these kind of things. So I started out just looking for another person who had expertise in business coaching to maybe throw some of the events with, to do some of the virtual programs with. If you create any type of content for virtual programs, you know that's a monster in and of itself. When you talk about courses, the workbooks, the slides, all of these different things. I tried several times to partner with different women who were in the same lane. We were serving the same population. We had complementary skills, but it just kept falling through. It was either ego, it was either our just work ethic was very different. Our levels of excellence and how we operated were different. It was just one thing after another. And I started to get discouraged and kind of give up on it. I was at a conference, a small business conference, and Roland Martin was the keynote. Roland Martin, the TV one. So he's on the stage, and it's all small business owners, and it's a huge convention center in Chicago. And he says, I speak at a lot of corporate conferences, and when I speak at the Fortune 100s and the Fortune 500s, they're talking about mergers and acquisitions, they're talking about all of these things, but when I speak to small business owners, that's never on the table. So he started looking around. I had a booth there, I was a vendor there, and Summer was a vendor there. And he started pointing people out. So there was a lady who made custom jewelry. And he was like, you ain't making no money. And I'm like, dang, Roland, how you gonna point her out like that? And he said, well, I know for you to make money in your industry, you have to really buy in wholesale. And you probably don't have the capital to do that. And the lady was like, you're right. There was another lady that had a similar business. He said, if you all joined and put your money together and got your wholesale, you can cut down, get a higher profit margin. He was giving them a whole business model. So as he started talking, if you could imagine, a little light bulb went up over my head. Summer's across the room. We were doing the exact same work with the same population. She's a marketing genius. I'm more on the strategy, business model planning side. So it was so complementary. We met there and we said, we're inspired by Roland. Let's get together at Panera this week and just see if maybe a project, just dip your toe in the water, right? A little project. And we shut that Panera down, y'all. They had to kick us out. So many ideas was coming. Just our vibe, the energy was like, okay, could this work? And I let her continue the story, because that was about, 6 years ago? Yeah. And we still partnering and making money together, so it's working. But
And so we ended up doing just this one virtual program together, and it went so well and we worked so well together that we said we should continue to do this. And it went from that one little virtual program to then going on to partner together on larger corporate contracts. And it got to the point where in a 13-month period, we had made an additional 6 figures in income. This is in addition to what I'm already making in my business, in addition to what Laura's already making in hers. We made an additional 6 figures in income in the work that we had done together. And the sparks were flying at that point.
And that's significant when you think about the number. She said that African American women are averaging $24,000 a year. And we know that there's, highs and lows of that. Both Summer and I had been in business for about 3 or 4 years. We had independently made, got to 6 figures at that point, but the work that it took for us to do that independently, to like in 1 year, to be able to hit 6 figures on a project, a side project, it just let us know that there was a lot of synergies we had, not only in pooling resources, so we were able to join our money to get the website up for the program. The workload, and I talked about that. If you've ever run any kind of content creation course, it's a beast. So to be able to say, you take modules 1 to 2, I take modules 3 to 4, it just was sharing the isolation. You know, being an entrepreneur can be very isolating. It can be very overwhelming. Your family and friends support you, they love you, but everybody don't get it, right? They just don't get the hustle, they don't get what it is you're trying to do. So it was a sisterhood that kind of developed, and it became our mission to say, this is not rocket science, but we got to get the word out about this. We got to let our sisters know what ways can we be creating these type of synergies and creating this kind of value with less stress than what we've been doing up to this point. Yeah. So one of the things when we talked about that 100K, and that's often the holy grail when you first get started in business. People want to hit that first 6 figures, but once you hit that 6 figures, you know that that's really like the salary you had when you were working full time after taxes and expenses. But it's a major goal that you're trying to accomplish. So that collaboration we found was a way to kind of speed that up a little bit. Yeah. So speaking of collaboration, collaboration over competition, Patrice, you talked about working with other attorneys. Can you tell us a little bit more about your experience with the collaboration versus the competition?
Yeah. So for me, the key word was leverage. Building a law firm from the ground up takes a ton of work, and I can't do it all. And so how do I create leverage? So that, number one, the clients can continue to be served well. A lot of small businesses, especially as a service provider, when they hit that growth period, the clients feel it and not in a good way. So how can we create the leverage so that our clients, we can continue to support our clients through the growth? But also, it came down to revenue. I developed what I call to be my 350K business model, and I knew that once I reached that model, once I cracked the code on it, then I could teach other attorneys who were like-minded how to rinse and repeat it. So the next thing for me was figuring out how to achieve some level of success on my own. So having that benchmark, and for me it was my 350K model. Once I had that benchmark, then it was, okay, who do I need to fill these seats? Because the big vision of my firm was for us to have a presence in 5 markets. I'm not going to be in 5 markets personally, right? And so how do I identify like-minded attorneys who can carry on the mission of my firm in a way that feels aligned and authentic? And so what I wanted to do was, instead of, I didn't actually go out and at first post for an attorney position. I just started telling people in my network, I'm looking for an attorney who is committed to creators, who would be willing to do this work even if they weren't being paid today. They were going to be paid, but even if they weren't, they were that passionate about it that they would put in the work, and they would put in the work for our clients. And so people started telling me, oh, I have this attorney you need to meet. She's a Harvard Law grad. She also went to your undergrad. You guys were just there different, times. She's in LA. So people started feeding me these different folks who they thought would be a fit. And we met and we hit it off. And I think that is because I was very clear on who needed to fill the seat in terms of the profile. So I needed someone who was also a big idea person. I needed someone who our clients could come in and give this big, what other people would call crazy idea of everything that they wanted to do, and the other attorney would look at them and say, okay, let's figure it out. I needed someone who would be in it for the long haul, and I needed someone who would have the perfect balance of, I know how to cut it on and give you the corporate firm experience, but I'm not so up here that I'm not approachable. And so that was something that I couldn't necessarily get just from a job posting. So what I can say for you all is being intentional about knowing those characteristics of who you need as a partner. Then the other thing I looked for was what are my gaps? Where are my weaknesses? Because I'm not strong in everything, right? And so for me, a big thing is that, great attorney, I am an introvert. I am an introvert. I do great with one-on-one, but you put me in a big conference and you're probably gonna find me off in the corner on my phone or, in the computer. So I needed someone who could balance my introvertedness, because it's not all the time about trying to make yourself fit into this mold that is just not you. It's about finding people who can fill in the gap for you, and that's truly what a partner is. So that's what I look for. I tapped the network, and then I met another attorney on Instagram. And that sounds strange, but we would have these great conversations around different legal issues, and finally she came to my city, Chicago, was like, can we meet? We met, we hit it off, and so my takeaway for you from that is that be intentional about, be clear on where your weaknesses are, be intentional about the seat that person needs to fill, and just open yourself up to the conversation and putting it out in your network, because you may actually know someone who may fit the mold.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, like with any relationship, there's the courting process, there's a vetting process. Summer, you talk about some of the kind of questions you need to start asking yourself when you begin vetting who could be a potential partner or collaborator for you. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, and why don't you hold up our shameless plug right there, Laura? So Laura and I actually made a little workbook called The Power and Profit in Partnership, based on the success that we had with our own partnership. And one of the things we talk about in the book is kind of doing a self-assessment to determine if you are actually ready for partnership. So you really want to take a look at your business model and make sure you're clear on what that business model is. Do you know how you make money? Do you understand what the back-end operations and systems are that you need to have in your business? Because really you want as best, although it's a good fit when you can find a strength to offset your weakness, but you don't necessarily want to be at the bottom reaching for someone at the top, because you want it to be a little bit more balanced when you're seeking out a partnership. So you want to start with making sure your business model is intact and it's solid, that you are already generating some revenue on your own and you're clear on what your business model is. You also want to make sure that you can see a clear path to profitability. Can you all actually make money together? Does it make financial sense for you all to partner together? And then finally, I would say you want to make sure that it's a good fit. You need to understand what your work style is. You need to understand the work ethic of not only yourself, but the person you're partnering with. I'll tell you all a really brief story about that one right there. We were working on a large corporate project that rolled up into like the 12th month of her pregnancy, and we had these deadlines to get done. And that sister right there, we had a call where we were on the phone finishing up this project because some subcontractors, and this is a pitfall of partnerships, some subcontractors we had hired had dropped their part of the ball. And so we had to make up for the work that they didn't finish. And we had to run a 23-hour telephone call while she was 13 and a half months pregnant. And I mean, it was kind of like, okay, it's 2 a.m., we're going to take a 20-minute nap and call me back at 2:30, you know? Yeah. It was that kind of thing, but her work ethic matched mine, and so it was about, getting the work done, and that makes sense. So for me, partnering with somebody who's, a little bit more carefree and lazy, and the work will get done when I feel it in my spirit, that's not really going to work for me, because I speak in numbers and deadlines. So you know you. Nobody knows you better than you know you. So before you go out and partner with someone, you want to make sure that it's a good fit. Because if you are laid back and carefree, you need to move by the Spirit, you don't want somebody hounding you all. You all are going to clash in that way.
And I think, too, this is a good point to just talk about when we say partnership, right? That word can mean a lot of things. There is a legal partnership when we think about corporation partnership, sole proprietor, right? We're talking more about the ways you work with people. So common partnerships that I've been engaged in is like a joint venture. When we talked about the course that we did for entrepreneurs together, meaning that we both came together, equal ownership, equal expenses, equal contribution, and we took equal profit for it. That was a joint venture, and we had a legal document that governed that. When we did some of the larger corporate projects and we were blessed to hire other small business owners, that was a subcontractor agreement. So we were the ones on the paper, but we were able to outsource out some pieces to other small business owners to help us complete that project. That's a type of partnership. A partnership that Patrice and I have had is strategic partners. So I'm a business coach, Patrice is an attorney working with business owners, right? We service the same type of people doing different things. So I've been able to bring Patrice in to be a legal guest expert when I have done mastermind programs for my clients, and we've been able to refer clients back and forth. At one point, Patrice was my only go-to attorney that I would even trust my clients with, because I had had so many issues with people just not being consistent and treating my people right and following through. So that kind of understanding where if my clients need some business advisory or some business strategy, I'll send them to you. If my clients need some legal advisory, which is not my lane of expertise, I'm going to send them to you. That's a type of partnership. So really we want to just kind of inspire you as we're talking about different ways we partner. It may not be coming together as a joint venture to do a big project together, but perhaps it's a strategic partnership that you see there is another sister who's running a business that has a product or a service that your clients need and vice versa, and you all make a commitment to send work to each other. That's an option too. So we can broaden the definition of what we're talking about with partnership and collaboration in that way, just to give you some ideas about what might work for you.
I add something there. Yeah, so I look at everyone as a potential partner as long as I feel in alignment, and I know that can feel really vague, but I'm a big instinct and gut person. So if your instincts about people are really strong, I encourage you to lean on that in business, because that has led me to some of my most valuable relationships. And once my gut tells me like this is good people, I look at everyone as a partner. So we talked earlier about the attorneys that I'm bringing on in different markets. Those are my partners. Our model is built so they are basically an entrepreneur and a business owner within this overall infrastructure, but they lead that market. That is their baby. One thing I didn't touch on was employees as partners. You know, I don't really believe in hierarchies, and so for me, everyone is like this because there is a give and take in every relationship. And again, it goes back to, you know, I have some core strengths and weaknesses. Even with employees, they can fill the gap for me, right? And so I look at employees as partners and potential owners within this infrastructure. And so I think that the way that I approach my employee relationships are probably a lot different than other employers, but I want to know your ideas. If you tell me you want to lead something within Creative Genius Law, then okay, lead it. Tell me what I can do to support that. So I look at it as a partnership relationship. And so from the resume process with employees, what I was looking for at that point, again, may have been a little different because I was looking for a partner and not necessarily an employee. What I was looking for was someone who stood out, who stood out amongst all the static of all the resumes that come in from Indeed and from LinkedIn. I looked at someone who showed some individuality even within the four corners of their resume. I looked at someone who seemed to be very clear on who they were, and even if they didn't have a consistent employment path, I could find a common thread there. And I was looking for someone who just stood for something, to be perfectly honest, who I knew had a voice that was valid. Everyone's voice is valid, but I knew had a voice that would be a great voice for Creative Genius Law. And so to me, those are things that you look at when you're looking for a partner. The third type of partnership that I have is with my clients. I tell them from day one, this is a partnership. If you want to leave me, you can leave me, but most of my clients never go away. And that's because when I say that, I truly mean it. And so I am a partner in their business. I invest a lot of time up front in my clients, often regardless of whether I'm getting a check at that moment or not. And that is because, again, I look for alignment in the work that they are doing. So my kind of threshold question for myself, even with clients, is, would I do this for free, right? even if I weren't getting a check tomorrow, would I wake up excited about what they are working on? Is this something I can be proud of? Because I believe that everything that my clients are working on, to some extent, is a reflection of me and my values. And that's a lot different than a lot of other law firms. I tell people no. And the reason why I tell people no is because if I am a partner with my clients, then I have to get up excited and I have to feel aligned with what they're working on. And the fourth area of partnership for me, to Laura's point, is other attorneys. I have great relationships with other attorneys, primarily Black women attorneys, who, if not for them, I don't know where my firm would be, because they send me business all of the time. We stand in the gap for each other. We have accountability sessions. We talk about what is it like when you're facing a peer who doesn't look like you, who doesn't take you seriously just because you guys look differently. We talk about things like, why do our male clients call us and treat us differently than we know they would treat a firm that didn't look like us? Those are real experiences, and so I have my attorney women colleagues who are partners in accountability and in referring business.
I think so we've been talking about partnership, right? And we've been presenting all the peaches and cream part of it, right? Like it's all the good stuff. But with everything, there's also a downside, right? There's also obstacles to overcome. I think one of the biggest obstacles to collaboration, from what I've seen in my own experience and working with a lot of women entrepreneurs, is fear sometimes. And really, I was in a session earlier. It was about the diversity. I don't know if any of those sisters are here. It was about diversity in media. And they were talking about one of the sisters was talking about, she started her media company in college, right? And she had this vision for it. Hey, there she is in the back. You inspired me, girl. She had this vision for it, and she just knew that she was going to get some funding, and when she graduated, it was going to go, and that it didn't, and she felt defeated, and she was encouraged because it was part of her. It was part of her identity. And I've seen that a lot in working with Black women entrepreneurs in particular, that our business is not just a profit-making thing. Oftentimes, it's connected to our very identity. Oftentimes, for more spiritually focused sisters, it's even connected to their purpose or what they feel like their mission is in life. So when you pour so much of your individual self into your business, and then you're like, you want me to partner with somebody and, risk someone else not treating it the same way, that's a real thing to contend with. That's a real obstacle to contend with. So Summer, can you talk a little bit about some of maybe the fears or obstacles you had to overcome in collaborating with other business owners?
I think one of the biggest things really speaks to what you're just saying, and that is, it's kind of like, okay, I've built this little business, and this little business has been just me, and so the success of it has, been due to me. So can I trust? It's like that letting go. Sometimes it's hard to say, okay, I can trust you. I can trust someone else to take my vision and my name, more importantly, and put that on the line. And like you said, some of the pitfalls, like the subcontractors we talked about, who completely dropped the ball on me. You know what I mean? I had to pick up the slack there because my name was on the line. They can go on about their business and live their life because their company name wasn't on that contract. Mine was. So I think that was probably one of the biggest fears is, can you screw me over if I let you in? You know what I mean?
You got something on that, Patrice?
I do have something on that. So it's funny because when I'm on the attorney client side, it's easy for me to have these conversations with them, but being on the partner side of things is much different. So one of the fears, or I didn't know I had a fear actually, but one of the fears that came up for me was one of the first questions that one of my partner attorneys asked me was, what happens if you die? What happens to your clients? What happens to us? These other attorneys that you've brought in, who gets the name, Creative Genius Law, what happens? And this is literally a conversation I have every day with my clients, but the fear that it brought up for me was, what if something happens to me? And I have these people that I've left leading the ship, are they gonna treat my people the same way? That was the fear that I had. And so that's why I keep going back to really you got to make sure you're partnering with people who are aligned with your mission, because we never know, right? You know, things happen every day. We never know. And so you talked about the vetting process earlier. You've got to think about your exit strategy from whatever partnership looks like for you. What if this doesn't work out? Or what if something happens to me? Do I feel good about this person leading the ship, this person carrying on the reputation of what we've created together?
A common obstacle I see too, and it seems like common sense and a simple thing to do, but having the difficult conversations up front, you would be amazed how many people enter into a collaboration and they do not have a legal contract. I mean, it baffles me to this day. Patrice probably.
I'm not baffled anymore.
It's not baffled anymore, but like the vetting, all of that is all good, right? But at some point, there has to be a legal document that governs how we're going to split the money. Like even when Summer and I did the joint venture course, we didn't start a new business. We were two separate businesses joining together. So whose account was the money going to go in when they put their credit card in on the website, on the sales page, right? What was the accountability for that? How were we splitting the money once it went in? Like all of those things, we had to have those hard conversations up front. And for some people, it's difficult to have those conversations. It's difficult to talk about money. It's difficult to talk about, it's like, yeah, you cool, girl, but sign on this dotted line because I need to protect this. So I think that's a challenge for a lot of people of feeling like, oh, they're going to think I don't trust them, or they're going to think like well, you might not need to trust them if they don't want to sign a contract with you. So I could not stress that enough, being able to really have that conversation before any dollar is earned about what are the expectations for expenses, right? Does one person front it? Do you front it equally? All of those little minutia things are things that I've seen destroy a partnership. I had two clients that were childhood friends growing up. They started a business together. I mean, like sisters. They started a business together. They came to me for business coaching, and I worked with them for over a year. Early on, I connected them to an attorney, and I thought that the contract was done. Because as your business advisor, after I give you the advisory, it's not my business to follow up and see that you do your contract, right? So we're working. They got a website. They're doing a launch event. They have they're starting to get clients and all of this, and they're a year in, and they had the contract from the attorney but never signed it. Do you know to this day, those two women who grew up together are not talking? They're not speaking because of some financial things, because of expectations that weren't discussed, that like 20-year relationship destroyed. And once you discuss that stuff up front, it's not awkward when it comes up and you need to discuss it again. So it seems redundant, it seems like common sense, but I see it all the time. So just want to stress to you that if you are considering doing some collaboration with someone, don't be afraid to have those difficult conversations up front about the money, about splitting, about what account. I mean, as the minutia you can think of it, to have those discussions before any money is earned, because it makes it easier on the other side to kind of deal with that.
And I'll add to that as well. In addition to the money, it's also those other little nuanced things like, so for the corporate work that Laura and I have gone after, we had to put it under one company or the other because, again, we don't have a joint company. So if there's egos involved, it's like when we go to this meeting to pitch our services, who's the lead here? Who's going to talk? You know what I mean? If you're thinking about partnering, but you got a little spirit of Beyonce on you, don't go dragging Kelly and Michelle into your business and partnership. Just do your lemonade and go on about your business. Like, it can't be any ego involved when we're trying to pitch this corporate work and Laura's talking and I'm, what I really think. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's not going to work. You're not going to get the business and you're going to look foolish. So, but you have to have those conversations. Okay, we're going into this meeting. What's the game plan here? Yep. We're going to try and get this contract. Whose company is this going under? What's the payment structure going to look like? What subcontractors do we have to hire? Who decides which of those subcontractors meet the qualifications? What are the qualifications? I mean, you want to vet it out. That way, there's, like you said, there's no bad blood when everything is on paper.
Yeah, and I have two just kind of bonus gems for you all. So when you're having those conversations, as Laura said, part of the goal is to manage expectations. And so when you're having the conversation and you're reaching an agreement, even if you don't have an attorney at that point to write it down, what you want to do is ask yourself, would we interpret this to mean the same thing a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now? Because part of the challenge is that you may reach an agreement with someone, and when you go to read it 6 months later, it's vague. So now neither of you really have a clear understanding of what was meant, or both of you all discovered that you had different understandings of it. So you do want to get as specific as possible, and you want to make sure that no matter who reads it, no matter how far down the road they read it, they get the same understanding from it. So whatever you agree on, write it a third time, and then you'll probably get to a point where it's painfully clear. The other kind of bonus gem is, what happens if you and your partner don't agree on something? Who breaks the tie, right? And so that's something, when you are in it and you all are having a disagreement, it just is what it is. At that point, emotions may be running. You've got a lot of other stressors on you. And so you want to, in advance, decide, how do we decide this if we can't agree on something? How do we decide it? So one thing I've recommended for clients is, you may want to decide that a third party is going to be kind of the decision maker for you guys, or a mediator to some extent, and help you all reach a decision. You may decide that you'll check the issue against whatever your core mission is and see if it hits like these bullet points, and then have the third party decide. But whatever the process is, talk about now how you would break the tie, because there is going to be a point where you're trying to decide something with a partner and you just can't resolve it.
And I'd like to just go back a little bit to Summer's last point, because it might be some inspiration for someone. When we were pitching larger corporate kind of projects, the reason why we started doing that is because we were both independent solo business owners, right, running our own businesses. And we were getting some pushback when we would go after work, consulting work that we can do and knock out the park, because we looked too small. Right, we looked too small. Are you the only person? Do you have people on your team? You know, you get these type of questions. So what we did, we had a legal agreement behind the scenes that spelled out the terms of our joint venture. But as Summer would find things that might, her firm having that marketing strategy that might look like, that might be a better fit for her firm to be in the front, then at the table, I was her VP of something. Right, it was under her company. They didn't know what our behind-the-scene arrangement was, how we split the money. It was 50-50, but at the table, she was the CEO. If my company got the lead first, then she was my, VP of marketing strategy, or whatever the case. And what it allowed us to do is sit at the table with bigger players and compete with them and win the contracts with them. We had one contract where our team was made up of 7 Black women entrepreneurs. And we were all under I think that one's under Summer's company. We were all under that umbrella. And we would get compliments on how well our team worked together. And that's why we gave you the proposal, because you looked like you had the capacity. So, just want to share that sometimes it's about being able to compete at a larger level, and that collaboration. If we would have stayed separate, and we could have competed for that, both of our individual companies could have competed, neither one of us would have got it.
Right.
And not only did we get the contract, but then from the work we started and all of the wonderful subcontractors that we had that worked in excellence and just created amazing deliverables, they doubled that contract in the middle of the contract. But if we had not collaborated, and we wouldn't have gotten any of the money. So just to let you know, it's not necessarily giving up your business. We're not even talking on the legal aspect of like merging and just creating a company together. But what kind of collaborations can we do with our 2 companies that can allow all of us to eat, that can allow all of us to increase our brand presence in the marketplace and really show what we can do? And from that, more work was referred to us, and just one thing begat another thing. So just some inspiration if something like that might be options that you have. Would definitely encourage you to consider that and see if that's something that might work for your business. So we got this quote up here. with our sister Issa, and love this. A lot of times when we think about collaboration, especially in our connection economy now that's about, influencers and all of that, people want to connect to other people because they have a huge following and their stuff can get in front of people. But this quote really speaks to kind of our view on it, that it's not always looking for like the big person that you can latch on. Who's right next to you in the trenches, right? Mm-hmm. Who is struggling to build the same thing that you're struggling to build? That's really where I personally found the most benefits in partnership, from really reaching across to someone who's in the same boat as me and saying, how can we combine? There's no pretense in people thinking I'm trying to latch off the hard work that they've done to build their brand at this level. And it's just a different understanding. So definitely encourage you to look across the aisle. Who's on the same plane as you? You guys got anything on that?
That's where I found my sweet spot as well, is reaching across to my peers and really figuring out how can we support each other and help each other build, and what that partnership looks like. I have mentors who have been in the game for years and years, but there's something different when you enter an industry with someone and then you all rise together and you know that they helped you get there, and vice versa. I think there's something different about the value and the longevity of those relationships that I found, and I've had quite a bit of success. So I love this quote. Had anyone seen this quote from Issa before? Yeah, I love this quote, because I do feel like by default we kind of think about, okay, who's up there, but we don't necessarily default here.
Mm-hmm. Anything on that? Okay, so our final point, and we're going to go to some Q&A. I guess the question I give to you ladies, if you had to leave kind of a major key or major insight, final tip that you want to leave with the audience about considering collaboration or partnership in business.
So I would say just be really open about what partnership looks like for you. It doesn't have to look one singular way, and I think that's the beauty of it. And so if I could leave you with anything, is to think about how it may apply to you and your business, and who may be those people that you know. One thing we didn't touch on was partnering with friends. And I have partnered with friends in the past, and I will say there is a tremendous amount of beauty that can come from that type of partnership, but your friends are partners just like anyone else. So the same things that we talked about with other people that you may consider partnering with, have those same tough conversations with your friends, so that it doesn't impact that personal relationship down the road.
Okay, and so earlier in the beginning, I told you all I was going to share with you some numbers that kind of speak to why this session is called the Power and Profit and Partnership for Black Women. So I just want to share that with you real quick so that you all can hear really what the disparity is. And again, this is in the American Express Open report. So on average, and this is as of 2018, Asian American women entrepreneurs earn $189,000 per year. Latina women earn $51,000 per year. Native American women earn $68,000 per year. Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander women earn $70,000 per year. Non-minority women earn $212,000 per year. Does everybody remember what number I told you African American women earn per year? $24,000. Can you all see the difference in that revenue? That's a problem. That's a problem. And again, the ways to solve that are not only partnership, they're varied. We need access to capital. We need a seat at table. Sometimes we don't even know the table exists, so therefore we can't have a seat of them. But what can we do within our own network, within our own community, to start to bridge that gap? If you heard, Latina women were the closest in terms of revenue, and they make almost double what black women make. That's not okay in 2019. And just so you know, when I first started following this report, it was in 2016. That number was 26,000. In 2017, the number went to 25,000. In 2018, it's now at 24,000. So it's moving in the wrong direction. So I beg of you, consider as you're going along your entrepreneurship journeys, try and find a way. Can you collaborate with another sister so that we can get that number trending back in the right direction? Because again, $24,000 a year on average is not sustainable. We're not eating, we're not saving, we're certainly not building a legacy of wealth for our families with those low numbers.
And we always hear the stat that Black women entrepreneurs are the fastest growing group. We are the fastest growing group, but our revenue and our income is going in the opposite direction. So that's even a disparity there, that we're starting these businesses, but we have to really implement multiple things. But one thing that we found in our own business, amongst other things, was that this collaboration piece really helped us to kind of almost double income in some spaces. So the final point I'll leave is that I told you all earlier, I tried about 4 different partnerships before I found a sweet spot with some of these sisters here. I would just encourage you, don't give up, you know, like any relationship. If you and your first boyfriend didn't work out or your first girlfriend didn't work out, don't mean you're never gonna date again, right? So don't give up. I just want to encourage you to do the vetting, do the assessment of yourself, be honest of your own readiness, but consider it if opportunity presents itself for you. Don't give up. So let's open it up for questions. If you have any questions, you can come to the mic in the middle.
Good afternoon, ladies.
Hi.
I have a question about affiliate partnerships as it relates to selling, like, for example, event tickets or courses that you may have open. What are some good strategies towards attracting affiliate partners, and what is your commission split usually on those sales?
Okay.
You've had some experience with doing affiliate partnerships.
It depends. A lot of in the course world, so we do some individual work, some mastermind group work, events, course world. In the course world, it's normally around a 50% split. In the course world, and usually because it's a passive offering. So you see a lot of people that's doing digital content now. Let's say they're selling something for $200. They're asking other people to send it to their list. They are even giving copy. What I recommend if you do any strategy like that is give them the copy of what to say. You need the stuff to be on brand with your what you offer, your values and all of that, but you need to, your selling points. But the course creation world is about 50%. And the reason why it's so high because it's passive content. It's passive content. I've done like mastermind groups that were a couple of $1,000s more intense, small groups, and I've done a 10, sometimes a 20% for people if people actually purchase and into the program. The success I've had in that area, and I don't do a lot of affiliate stuff because I find that people don't always put the effort towards your stuff. People are really inundated with opportunities like that. So when I first got started in coaching, the fervor that people would have, it's like, yeah, I sent it out. It's not the same. But if it is something that is labor intensive for you, like you're doing some one-on-one or some consulting, I found that affiliate partnerships are not really that useful. If it's a passive offering, something you created once, then affiliates tend to be very successful in that way.
And look for brand alignment,
Yeah.
because even though it is a win-win in that they're gonna earn something from the sale, you'll earn something, you still want to make sure you have people out there representing your brand that you want representing your brand. So make sure you weave brand alignment into that.
And the last thing on that too is having some systems in place to help you track that. There's a number of software, you probably have some things in mind, but it can get out of control, it can get away from you very quickly, and then you have people who felt like they did work on your behalf and they're not getting what you promised. So I just want to, would encourage you to have the systems in place so that stuff is tracked, automated through whatever program that you're using.
Hi, ladies.
Hi.
My name is Joy Hutton, and I hail from the great city of Chicago.
Well, we're all from Chicago.
Oh, all of you?
Yes.
Oh, my God. Okay.
Chi-town.
Awesome. So, but I live in Houston now. And so I have a consulting firm. I do organizational development consulting. And so I'm all about working with my people. However, I've experienced a lot of resistance in trying to do partnerships. And so I have 5 subcontractors that work for me in other cities. Two of the 5 are black. But I had to, go to the other side, so to speak. And so in trying to explore those partnerships, how do you deal with that resistance? Because it's like, I'm trying to convince you that we can get this money, but you obviously don't want to get this money because you're still trying to be like a crab in a bucket and do your own thing. And I just think that's so inefficient. Going after these government contracts, like you said, they're not looking at solopreneurs. They're looking, do you have a team?
Yep.
But it's like, how have you all gone about changing that mindset with people in terms of, like I said, trying to get this money?
I would say that when it comes to that, I'm a big believer in if you have to convince somebody
then
of
it's not
something,
worth
that's
it.
not your
It's not
ideal
worth it,
partner.
right.
That's not your ideal partner.
Yeah.
So it seems like you still maybe have a little bit of
Right.
searching to do because
Exactly, and that's why I just kind of
yeah, like
left that
I
behind.
talked about that work ethic thing. Like if we're not on the same page and how this
Yeah.
is a win-win for everybody involved. And I know we talked a lot about is the profit and partnership. So we talked a lot about the money aspect of it. But really, the money is just a means to an end. It's a
Right.
means for us to be able to support our families, to be able to help our communities. We're not helping no community if we
Right.
cannot pay our own bills.
Exactly.
And so if you're not on board with this mission, then you're not an ideal partner for me.
Right.
And I think the same thing, I talk about that a lot when you are even picking your clients that you work with.
Yeah.
You do not have to convince your ideal clients that they need your
Right.
services, right? They're ready. They got the checkbook ready. They don't have to take a second mortgage out on the house. I mean, you know what I mean? So you still have to do a little bit more courting and vetting there.
And I struggle with that, though, because it's like they're missing out on opportunities.
Yeah.
So, yes, I could tell them to kick rocks, which most of the time, yeah, I tell them that, but, well, not tell them that way. But I just feel like you all are they're missing out on so many opportunities. And it's like they're struggling to get business, and it's there. It's
Yeah.
out there.
And I don't even think
Yeah.
it's so much about kicking rocks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? As it is just from a business standpoint, I
Right.
can't lose myself trying to help you.
Right.
But I can show you through my actions. I can
Right.
do my best to educate you, but you're not going to mess with my money in the process.
Exactly. Exactly. Okay. Thank you.
And just on that point, I would encourage too. We had a graphic designer that we were working with that the sister was just bad creatively, but her business acumen was just. The thing is that I encourage that everything is a teachable moment, right? There was a point where she came around and she just wasn't ready. She was not ready for prime time. We could not put her in there with our clients. We just couldn't do it. But we had a conversation with her to say, this is why we can't work with you. And that was an in-love thing. Like, I need you to know, I'm not going to just ghost you and not talk to you anymore. I want you to know why you're not getting the proposals. I want you to know why people are not calling you back. I want you to know this because I want you to succeed. Some time passed, came back around, and she was ready. And we like, let's do it now, right? So that's what I'm saying. Let's not give up on each other, but at the same time, let's not be foolish either and risk messing up our ability to take care of ourselves too.
Hi, everyone. My name is Destiny. I'm from Boston. My question is more so when you meet people in person, it's a lot easier to see their vibe and see how you connect. And I guess I'm wondering, how do you go about extending and reaching out via email or something when you want to start a partnership, like presenting yourself in the best way when they can't meet you in person? And then can I cheat and ask another one? So I'm also thinking about building a team, and it is really hard to get people to kind of see outside of themselves and to see a bigger vision. And I've been a part of a team that it kind of fell apart. Like I was taking a lot of the lead, and then when I started feeling like I wasn't getting the support, it kind of just everyone just started doing their own thing again. So how is there, like, when you have a team of 10 women who will have their own business, is there like a leader that kind of rounds everyone up? How do you make sure that you stay together in a united mission?
So for the first question, I always look for how it can help people. And so I would never reach out to someone right away to partner. I would reach out and have already identified a way that, actually, first off, I just ask to talk. Some people are not necessarily open to that. It may be because of their availability, or maybe they're just not interested. But even though I'm reaching out to talk, I've already identified how it can be a resource to them. So I gave the example earlier of I have great relationships with some other women attorneys. Those relationships were initiated because attorneys are not necessarily great operational people, and I happen to love operations and process and systems. So I would be like, girl, let me help you like get this together. I noticed that I can never get anybody when I call your office. Here's a resource that we use. And so I think just being proactive and showing how you can help and being sincere about it. And then from that point, just letting the relationship naturally develop, because you have to give yourself a chance to even see. You may think it's a viable person to partner with, but you've got to give yourself time to feel them out for the reason you just said. It's hard to feel people out long distance, and you have to give them the opportunity to do the same thing. So it's a process that absolutely takes time, so you don't want to leap into that. The second thing you asked, that question was long. I'm trying to remember. So you said, how do you get all these women who have all their businesses on the same page and working together? It's about being clear about roles and responsibilities up front. It's more about being impactful even with a little bit of time than being chaotic with a lot of time, right? And so think about what the roles and responsibilities are going to be. Figure out some streamlined way to communicate. We love actually like Google Sheets, something very simple. We have all sorts of systems, but a Google Sheet is where we can drop in quick updates on things. And so figure out a centralized way to communicate that doesn't require someone to always have to be available for a call. So something that can work in the background for you around everyone else's schedules, but knowing like what everyone's roles and responsibilities are going to be up front and what they aren't is the most important thing.
And if you're leading it, it's almost like if you were running a corporation, right? If you've ever been an employee, if you're leading it, you need to take some time to really establish your vision and your desired outcomes for that. So I recommend like a launch meeting where you are saying, here is the big picture, here's the vision, here's the desired outcome, and you're kind of setting the tone for what is a spirit of excellence for this particular project. Another thing too that I find a lot of people when they're working with subcontractors and they're like, well, they're not my employees, the communication isn't as fluid as if it was your employee. So I recommend regular, whether it's a Zoom meeting or something, just to check in. We would have like actual like all team meetings where people would come, you reporting on what you're doing, because what you're doing might affect what this subcontractor is doing. So there's ways to do that virtually if your team is not in the same place. There's a lot of systems, tools, Slack. There's one we just learned about in the exhibit hall here that's free, Miko or something like that, where you can see real time where people are on their pieces of the project. So there's technology you can use, but it's about consistent communication so that everybody's always, and that's a mistake we made on that project when we talked about that subcontractor fell through. We figured these people had 20 years senior experience over us. We're looking at them like, wow, they want to work on this project with us, little old us. And they was a hot mess. So we just said we gave them what they needed to do and gave them the time to deliver, checked in and figured, and we needed to be checking on them more than we were, people that had just started in business. So the consistent communication, but you have to set the tone of what that vision is, what the mission is for the project up front when people come in.
And I just want to speak really quickly to your first one because I've also had collaborations with people I still haven't met to this day. That I had a woman reach out to me on Instagram, and then that moved into a phone conversation, and then that moved into us bidding on like a multi-six-figure project. we didn't get it, but it was still, I had never met her in person. So that goes back to when Patrice was saying, trust your gut instinct. Get the person on the phone. Have your questions, your vetting questions in place. We know crazy. Black women know crazy better than anybody I know. Trust your gut instinct. You know if somebody sounds like they may be a little, and it's not going to be a good fit. But if you have kind of like your standard questions, tell me, just have your stuff written down before you get on that call. But I think it can work.
All right, thank you so much.
Okay. One more, and I think we're right in time.
Hi, ladies. How are you today?
Hi.
Good.
My name is Alicia Corpening. I'm from Cleveland, Ohio. I have a small business called True Creatives Media and Management. Now, I do understand the importance of team building and how important it is to have a team, but my question is, well, let me say this first. I heard you say spiritual and all of that. Like, I'm a big energy person, so I can read energy, and I always go with that. But what are some characteristics that you guys look for in regards to building your teams?
Work ethic. That's like the biggest thing. Quality of work and work ethic are the biggest thing for me. I cannot do lazy, and I cannot do sloppy.
Good.
I look for someone to be an owner of whatever their area of work is. So I don't care if you're just answering phones. I want you to own that piece of answering phones. I want you to come up with a greeting that's going to make people feel good, and I want you to be excited about it. So I look for someone who wants to own whatever their piece of the work is.
Awesome.
My biggest one is responsiveness. Time is money. And so there have been people that I've reached out to, and I'll say, well, give me a quote for this if we do a subcontract. It's 3 weeks later, I don't have a quote. The opportunity could be gone. So I think that a sense of urgency about things is very important for me.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank
that
you.
was great.
I just want to thank you women so much for, I don't know how this panel came about, but I just want to thank you because I feel the power in this room.
Wow.
And these conversations aren't being had. And I can so identify because I'm exactly at that point where it's like, okay, you know what? We know what we going to need for this contract. So you done told the story. I'm not going to repeat it.
Right.
But I'm at that point where like, we're getting solid contracts. Like, I am an entrepreneur. I've been doing this for 3 years,
Yes.
still driving a BMW and got the platinum badge. I'm good,
Yes.
right? I'm good.
Yes.
But I want to take it to that next level because I'm like losing contracts to like Ogilvy and these like the real deal, like, these folks are billionaires, Ogilvy and them, right? And so I just want to put something out to the women in this room. I don't want the energy to go away. So I will take the responsibility to like do something like a month from now to continue
Wow.
what you started here today. And so I'd love for you to continue what you started here today. And I'll take the responsibility to like take names and put something on the calendar and do something. But I don't want this to stop. What you started today was just way too amazing. So I just want to put it out to everybody. If you want to be a part of that, make sure to give me your info
awesome.
and I'll hang out for a while afterwards.
Wow.
I
That's
love
awesome.
that.
Thank
Love
you.
that.
My name is Jessica. That was a perfect seg into my question comment that I was going to say. I'm from Portland, Oregon, and if anybody knows anything about Oregon, Washington, the Pacific Northwest in general, there's not a lot of black people out there. We're literally like 6% of the entire state. So coming from an environment like that, being an entrepreneur, being a female, woman of color, my question was, how do we stay connected if there's no directory, there's no green book that we can go to per se to actually see who around us might be an asset? And I believe that if I can't be used, I'm useless. So I'm of the same state of mind where I'm like, okay, what do I have that can help you, or what can I do that I have a black CPA. I told all my friends, go to this CPA. I have, a black hairstylist, and 2 of my friends just graduated from beauty school. Go try to get a job at this salon. Those sorts of things. But if you don't know, you don't know. And if you don't come from an environment where there's a lot of sisters that you can reach out to, you just don't know. And so it's not, you choose not to go to that CPA, or you choose not to, I don't go to this CPA because black people don't do good business. No, that's not it. I don't know no black people that do this business.
How many of us have heard that, or maybe even said it, that you've had a bad experience working with another black entrepreneur and you've heard someone say, oh, I don't do that anymore. I don't mess with them anymore. Has it, you all have heard, right? We cannot do that.
I hate
You
that.
don't have
I
to
hate
work
that,
with
yeah.
that entrepreneur anymore, but we
Right.
cannot give up on each other because because
Right.
we're going to be going down to 23,000 a year next year if we don't put an end to this.
So I was wondering, what can we do to network with each other on a larger scale? Because if you women hadn't been at that conference together, you guys maybe would have never budded that business relationship. And every entrepreneur can't go to conferences. Every entrepreneur doesn't have a platinum badge. You know what I mean? So how can we stay connected like this?
It starts right here in this room.
And build it.
It starts right here. Everybody in here, we all got at least 10, 15 friends or business owners we know or something outside of this room. So if we start by connecting with each other, then we've already expanded our network, right?
Thank you.
And use technology. I am quick to slide in someone's DMs and tell them, I love what you're doing. Keep pushing, because I know how hard it is behind the scenes. We see everything that looks great from the outside. And sometimes some people just need to hear that their work is being received or that other people see them. So even if it's just as casual as hopping on someone's thread or sliding in someone's DM to say, hey, I see you, that's the bud of a new relationship.
Okay, so my question's a little different because I'm just starting to get in. And something that
Can you move up to the mic just a little bit so we can hear you?
Something that Ms. Alexandra said earlier regarding how do you know if you're ready for a partnership? And some of the questions that you were asking, how do you feel about if you have the opportunity to like buy into a partnership? So you're not coming in with, I'm already, like you said, you know what you're making. I know what I'm worth. I know what I can bring to the table. But I mean, how do you feel about an opportunity? How do you feel about an opportunity like that? And from what you're saying, how does going into a situation like that differ from some of the things you're saying regarding you've already got something established and you're bringing it together?
Well, in that case, you still have something established, presumably. You're right. You've got your educational background, right? You've got how many years of experience, right? How many connections do you have? That's still valuable capital when we're talking about a business. So I think all of that can apply.
And the other piece too, if you're looking to buy into a business, you want to be a wise investor. So you need to see financials. You want to see some of the solvency of the business. You want to understand the business model, which is, okay, we're about to wrap up, which is how does the business make money? You need to have a clear understanding of that. All of those things to help you assess and make the decision of if this is a good thing for you.
Okay.
Okay? I think we've run out of
All right.
time.
We have to wrap, but if you need us, ladies, catch us in the hallway.
Thank you.
See,
Just wanted to say I'm giving out money this year to Black female entrepreneurs. So if anybody's interested in some of the grant programs, please hit me up.
Yes. Perfect
Thank
way
you
to
all
end it.
so
Thank
much.
you all.